what I'd like to share with you is the administrative view of what Adlib is capable of doing. And it's very important you understand it. This is not an end user experience you're about to see. So if you think about that slide that had that kind of messy arrows in it, we're talking about now these documents that are being received and all those manual steps that users typically would be doing. We're going to now at a central location, so say at the IT level or somebody that's specific to workflow automation level, we'll take a look at the process and now add automated steps to those documents as they're being received. And we're going to start really simple, and we're going to kind of build in complexity as we move through the workflow. So what you see here is the admin experience, and the first thing you see is like there's a home screen here, and this home screen is kind of where you would go to, to see the health of the system. And you can see like some of these services are healthy, some of them require attention. Green light obviously is good. Blinking orange means that some things are starting or initializing. In a few seconds, all these things should turn green. All right, so this is kind of where, and there they are, and they're now all green. So now, like from a system perspective, this is like the first view you might see. Now, you were asking earlier, someone was asking earlier about some like kind of the sources. So you'll see in some of the demos, we already have configured certain sources. So in this case, we're like, this is a sort of a network folder. This is an exchange folder. This is another exchange folder. This is another folder source. And there's a lot of other things that are in here that are various workflows that we're seeing through the organization. And everything that you see in Adlib is kind of drag and drop. So if I wanted to add a new source, I can literally drag it into the workflow, and it would just simply allow me to configure it. So this is not the full list of the source types here. This is the stuff that comes out of the box, and then we have other connectors that you just simply add to the installation. But the first thing I'll show you here is the demos that we're going to be doing are typically an input and an output folder. So if I go back to the desktop here, you'll see like an input folder. This is where we're going to be dropping documents for the purpose of this demo. And then you'll have an output folder, and this is where those documents will be processed to. That's typically how sources work. Really easy to configure. You can have as many sources as you want. Sky's the limit. Okay. The next thing I'll show you is simply how we're processing documents. What I'm going to do quick is I'm going to grab a Word document, and to kind of show you what I just told you in action, I'm going to drop this Word document into the input folder. It's going to get immediately ingested by Adlib. You see how it disappeared there. And then in a few seconds, it's going to land in this output folder. And what's happening behind the scenes is Adlib has received that job and is now actively processing that job. All right. Once this job is processed, you can see it's that welcome to Word document that I just put into the Dropbox. Now see that it's now in this output folder. Okay. So let's take a look a little closer at that Word document that we just put in there. All right. You've probably seen this and ignored this document 1,000 times. When you first open Word and it says new document, typically there's like, hey, welcome to Word, right? So this isn't a document we created, but this is a nice document for demo because it's got some graphics in it. It's got some hyperlinks in it. It's got pictures in it. Some of the pictures have wrapped text around it. So it's kind of a good representative sample of what a customer might be using in their environment. Now, in this document, there's also no bookmarks aligned to. So if I go to like bookmarks, you can see the bookmarks are blank. There's hyperlinks in this document, which we're going to play with as part of our demo as well. All right, so that's the starting document. The document that we just got out of the output folder is that same document. However, you'll notice there are no hyperlinks. This should be a hyperlink, but it didn't render as a hyperlink. Okay, there are no bookmarks in this particular document. So it's just a flat PDF because we didn't configure anything yet for the workflow to actually know what to do with this particular document. So let's go back real quick and actually show you what it looks like to add some basic configuration to this standard document. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to this job settings. And in job settings, these are the types of workflows that we already have. Like we have an email extraction workflow, an employment agreement workflow, a Form 1572, a healthcare enrollment document. So think about those document types I was just showing you in that slide that has all those arrows on it. This is kind of the representative. Okay, for an invoice, here's what you do. For a job ticket, here's what you do, right? And each one of these has a different set of steps. For nuclear forms, we have a handwriting extraction. This is what you would do. Right? But for this particular one, we're going to go to the transform folder, and we're going to go to the transformation rules. And you can see here that regardless of if Word lands, PowerPoint lands, an image lands, Excel lands, HTML lands, we're going to convert that file type to PDF. Okay. Then what we're going to do is some transformations, and all this stuff is blank on purpose. And the first thing I'm going to do is something really simple. is I'm going to go to Word, because that's the document we have, and I'm going to simply say, I want the document hyperlinks to be active, and I want to change the appearance of them. All right. So instead of that being blue, which it was in the source document, I'm going to change this to red. And instead of it being underlined, which it was in the document, I'm going to say there's no underline. Okay. First thing we're going to do. The next thing we have the ability to do, I should say that, is go to bookmarks. I'm simply going to enable it. Okay. I'm going to hit save. And what happens is automatically that workflow is now updated with those two changes, adding the hyperlinks and adding the bookmarks. All right. So the next time I drop this same document to the input folder, which is here. All right, so that document's now been ingested by Adlib. I'm going to get some of these folders out of the way. All right, it's being processed by Adlib, and sooner or later that document will land here with the two changes that we just made. Hyperlinks being red and not underlined, and also the bookmarks. So we now have a document. You can see on the left-hand side, the first thing you'll notice is that Adlib is smart enough to know, based on the style types and headings within the document, that we know that these things should be bookmarks. And as we click through these, you can see that these are active bookmarks. All right. The next thing you'll notice is that that link is now a link. You see it actually has the URL next to it. It was blue and underlined, and we converted it to red and not underlined. So if you're dealing with a regulated industry, they have rules, literally rules for what hyperlinks should be. The color they can be, should they be underlined? Can they be external references? Can they be internal only? These are all the types of things that we're automating as we go through this document, or the configuration of the document. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go back to this document, and you'll see here on the left-hand side, consider this like your toolkit. And each of these toolkits has things that you can do with the documents. And literally there's hundreds of items that are in our toolkit. But I will go through a few just to kind of prove or show you the type of capability. So if you want to find a particular item, you'll say, I want to add a header to this document. So I typed it in, I hit search. I now have the ability to add headers into my workflow. All right, so I literally found it and dragged it into the workflow. Now we're simply going to configure it. I want to add a header in the center that says received, actually I'll say processed on. And I'm going to add the date. This is like a live metadata tag that now will take the date of my server that I'm processing these documents on and add the word processed on and then today's date, which is December 4th. All right. We also want to say I can pick the font that this should be. So I'm going to pick Helvetica Bold. I want the color to be, I don't know, let's pick this green thing. I want the size to be, let's make this bigger, 14. I want the opacity to be fine. That's okay. We don't have to do them all, but you can see there's a lot of configuration there. So that's the header. We just configured that. Now what I'm also going to do is add a watermark. All right, so I just simply search on watermark. You can see here it's going to go find that for me. I have the opportunity to drag that into the workflow. Let's go configure that real quick. So the text for this one is going to say draft. Let's say internal only. I'm going to put this position here in the center left. Position the center left. I have the opportunity to change the orientation. Once again, I can change the font. In this case, I'm going to pick a different font, times bold. Doesn't really matter. Color, let's go for a nice red. Size, I'm going to go 72 points, make it big. Opacity, I'm going to make this so like it doesn't block out the entire text. So maybe I want this like maybe 20. So let's go 15. All right, and hit OK. So we just now added two more things to this particular document. As soon as I hit save, you can see that that's now saved and the changes are now published to this particular workflow. Okay, so when I now go back to this document location and hit input and copy our Word document back into the location, let me go get it again. Do that. The document is picked up. If I go back to the output folder, which is here, that was the one from before. Delete that. The document is now being processed. We're still doing the hyperlinks and bookmarks, but what we now have added is that header, which has now received or processed on today's date, which is 12/4. And then we've also added the watermark, which should be draft internal use only. So that now document is here. And as we open it, you can start to see that in that green, we had processed on 12/4/2024, which is today's date. And we put the watermark in here. It says draft. internal only. Okay, so you can start to see how we can start to automate these once manual steps that an end user would typically be doing. But now every single time a document is received by Adlib, and any location that we're polling and this workflow is monitoring will be pulled into the workflow, and these once manual steps would now be automated steps.